Did you notice that as Heather was talking there, that she didn't say anything about sitting down with people who are in this pattern of hurting themselves and hurting others and tell them how much they're hurting themselves and why they're hurting themselves? Did you notice that? Did you notice that instead she talked about sharing truth and hope with them? And the reason for that is because those that she is ministering to, just like all of us, are in a spiritual battle. They're not in a rational battle. I'll never forget that when I was younger, I sat down and I spoke to my father, and my father was locked up in Mormonism. He was locked up in a darkness that he didn't understand. And I remember sitting down with him and laying out all the rational arguments about why what he was believing and what he was doing didn't make sense. And by the way, my father was a rational guy. And as I laid it all out, I would just see his eyes kind of glaze over, and he would just start reciting this, quote, testimony, this thing that the church had taught him. And he would like stop talking to me. And at the time I'm like, what is going on? Well, the reason he was doing that is because his beliefs weren't based on some rationale that he sat down and decided this is what I'm going to believe. But instead, his beliefs were based on something spiritual that had him locked up. Why do I share that? We are in the middle of a battle, and we have people all around us that are believing and doing completely irrational things. And we find ourselves going, what do we do with that? What do you do when you have kids coming to school who say, I identify as an animal? I mean, what do you do with that? Do you sit them down and have a rational conversation with them about, this is why you're not a cat? I mean, seriously. Well, you know what? The same issue there is the same issue that my father struggled with. And that issue is they are locked up in something spiritual. And if we don't understand that, we're not going to be able to help them. But if you do understand that, you have the answer. And the answer is not to demean them and tell them how bad they are and why their life is such a wreck. But the answer is to tell them what their life can be. I want to go to a scripture, not our main scripture at first. I want to go to a different scripture first. It is in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 19. It says this, Paul's talking, and he says, what am I trying to say? Am I saying that food offered to idols has some significance, or that idols are real gods? No, not at all. I am saying that these sacrifices are offered to demons, not to gods. And then he goes on to say, I don't want you to participate with demons. Here's the reason that I bring that up. We are in a spiritual battle. If you have not made Jesus your Lord, you need to understand that you are under demonic control. Do you feel like you have change in your life that you can't break? I mean, have you ever continued to do things that you know are harmful in your life and you don't know how to break it? I've been there. You know why we're doing that? You know why we continue to do something that we know is going to hurt us? Because there's demonic control going on. And only Jesus can break that. And so we have people all around us that claim, oh, I don't even believe in a God. That's great. You know what? You can say you don't believe in demons either. It doesn't matter. Because if you, and by the way, it's not about beliefs. It's not about beliefs. It's about surrender. If you have not surrendered to Jesus, if you have not said, Jesus, you are my King, then you are under demonic control. That's what's happening. And so the reason I share that is because we're in a battle not only for our own souls, but for the souls of the people we love. But if we don't understand what's going on, we're not going to be able to help them. I want to go to our main text today, which is actually in the book of Matthew. Book of Matthew, chapter 12, verse 43. And before I get into this, these few verses are going to start off talking about an individual. But I want you to know that the context here is actually not about an individual. It's about a generation. Jesus is talking to a generation, and at the very end of this, he's going to go back and say, I'm talking about a generation. And if you don't understand that, though, you just hear the individual part and you get locked on that. I want to share this with you this morning because this is what is happening right now to us where we live and to our loved ones. And if you don't understand this, you're going to be really confused and you're not going to know how to help. So here's what Jesus says to the religious leaders, by the way. Here's what he says in verse 43. He says, when an evil spirit leaves a person, it goes into the desert, seeking rest but finding none. Then it says, I will return to the person I came from. So it returns and finds its former home empty, swept, and in order. Sounds like a great life. Then the spirit finds 7 other spirits more evil than itself, and they all enter the person and live there. And so that person is worse off than before. But now catch this. It says then, that will be the experience of this evil generation. First of all, I want to say this. Many of us don't even believe in the demonic. Or if we do believe it, we don't live in such a way that it's actually happening all around us. Maybe you've seen a movie at some point that portrayed somebody, who was possessed, and they're like foaming at the mouth, and, their eyes are red, and they're all freaking out. And so you're thinking, oh, that's what a person looks like who's under demonic influence. I want to tell you, no. That is not what a person, is that possible? Absolutely, yeah. They can manifest in all kinds of ways. But by and large, normally, is that what's happening? No. Who is Jesus talking to right now? He's talking to the religious leaders. These are the people that are directed and possessed by the demonic. The religious leaders. These are the people that are the respectable ones in the community. These are the ones that are well dressed. They live in nice homes. When people see them out and about, they give them warm greetings. Oh, Rabbi. Oh, Father so-and-so. These are the people that have it all together. And what is Jesus saying? You are absolutely possessed and directed by the demonic. Why do I tell you that? Because this is all around us. You have people that you love. And again, it may be happening in your own life. You have people all around you that are respectable. But you see them doing things, or maybe you don't see it, but maybe you do see it. You see them doing things that are absolutely irrational. And you're saying to yourself, why are they doing that? And we just say to ourselves, they're an addict. They have this, chemical thing going on, and they may, okay? But how did that come about? How did they get to that point? I mean, Heather was talking about that. You have people who, are in the, adult entertainment industry. We like to put those nice, clean words on things like this. And many times they're addicted to substances. Why? Because they're trying to check out. I mean, life is so bad, they don't even want to actually be inside of that reality. But behind all of that, what's going on? There's demonic influence going on. That's how did it happen? I mean, it can happen a number of ways. That doesn't matter. We don't need to figure that out. That's what's going on. How do we help that? There's only one that can help that, and that is Jesus. He is the one who gives us the hope. He is the one who is able to break it free. But the sad part is that those that Jesus was talking to right there, they didn't want it. But there are people around you that do want it. But unfortunately, here's what was happening. These people, they didn't want it. They're directed by the demonic. Now, what are they doing with that? Well, they're spreading it. Because, by the way, that's what the demonic wants to do. You are made, even if you've never accepted Jesus, you are made in the image of God. You bear the image of God. He loves you so much that He put that within you, that you would bear the image of God. And you know what? The demonic who hates God hates you because you bear the image. And so you know what the demonic wants to do? It wants to destroy the image of God in you. So here's how this plays out. The demonic has control of certain people that don't want anything to do with God. Absolutely nothing. And what they are doing, and they are these nice, respectable people, okay? Many of them in suits, and they got the nice, clean hair, and they talk well, and all that stuff. What they are doing is they are directing people away from God and towards the demonic. And those are the people that you and I live with. Those are the people that we can be a vessel of God to bring hope and to bring light. But how do we do that? It's not by going to them and having the rational argument with them. It's about showing them what life and freedom looks like. It's about living it out in part, but it's also about acting it out with them, doing things that love them. I mean, these girls that spend Friday nights going to these places, I mean, if you go to these places and you're on some kind of substance, hey, who cares, you know? You don't even know you're there. But that's not these girls. These girls are completely sober, and they're going into these places, and they're exposing themselves to these places, okay? And so it's getting on them. Why are they doing that? Because it's showing love. And that's the only thing that is going to give hope to people who are locked in darkness. They need to be shown love. We were talking in Sunday school a little while ago, and we were talking about people who've been living on the streets for a long, long time, and talking about do you help, do you not? I mean, because it just seems to go on forever, and are you really able to do anything? But one of the things that I was opened up to recently by someone who went and purposely lived on the streets for a while. They talked about how you begin to feel absolutely hopeless because people no longer make eye contact with you. The person who did this experiment did it for 5 months. They were a college student, okay? They went to live on the streets. One of the things that they shared is that when they came back from the experiment, one of the hardest things that they had to break was learning to look in someone's eyes again. Like when they would just talk one-on-one with somebody, they found themselves looking down. Because when they lived on the street, that's what they learned to do. Because nobody looks at you. Everybody ignores you. That grabbed me. What if I went and just looked at somebody and just touched them? Somebody that's like stinks. That's not easy to do. I mean, my boys play football, and after a game, we give them a ride home. And if you leave the windows up, I mean, it's like overpowering. Well, I love them, okay? But this stranger that I don't know, do I really want to go, especially on a hot day somewhere? And do I really want to take time out of my day and stop and look him in the eye and maybe touch him? Which, by the way, if you touch him, it's going to get on your hand. I mean, your hand's going to smell. Do I really want to do that? Well, you know what? It's things like that that can break the darkness. It can break the darkness, and it can get through to them. But one of the things that we need to understand is that this is what's happening all around us. Have you noticed that the culture that we are living in, it's like getting really crazy? Why is that? Well, here's one of the things that Jesus was trying to point out to these people, and this is one of the things that's happening to us. Notice that it says that the evil spirit left. Why would an evil spirit leave a person that it was in? Did one day the evil spirit go, I wonder what else is out there. This person's kind of boring. I think I'm going to go, stroll through the desert a while. And then the spirit's like, oh, this is really no good. I think I'm going to go back to my home. No, that's not what happens. Earlier in this chapter, I'm not going to go up to it, but earlier in this chapter, Jesus talks about the only thing that can get a demonic spirit out of a person is someone who's stronger than the demonic spirit. That's only one person. That's Jesus. So here's what this means. This means that Jesus is talking about a person, and he's also talking about a generation, by the way. He's talking about a person and a generation who has received God. They've received God. They've given themselves over to God. But then they rejected God. And they decided, I don't really need God anymore. I've got everything in line. I'm just going to live my life. That's why it says the house was neat and in order and empty. But then what happened? Well, guess what? The Lord is the only one that can keep the darkness out. He's the only one. And here's why I share that. Because as you're following Jesus, I want you to know that it's not always easy. As a matter of fact, it can be really difficult at times. But you need to hear this. It is only Jesus and it is only His presence that keeps the darkness out from controlling you. It is only Jesus. Now, what this generation did was to say, I don't need God anymore. I'm going to continue on. Well, you know what? That's exactly what we've seen in our culture. We started off as a culture, even though there was always sin there, and not everybody followed Jesus, certainly not. But overall, we were a culture that said we want to honor God. But we've gotten to a place now where our culture has said, no more. You're out. So what has happened now? Well, this house became empty. Did the Spirit come back? Yeah. And what else did it say? It brought 7 more. That's why we've entered a place now where we are seeing absolute crazy happen. I've been to various nations around the world that do not know Jesus. They don't know the true God. They worship other gods. Okay, you take India, for instance, Hindu, and they're worshiping all these other gods. Well, what did Paul just tell us about that? We know they're not real gods, right? There's only one real God. But there is power behind it. Why? Because what they're actually doing is worshiping dark spirits. They just don't know it. They think it's a real God. But even in that, here's what I've noticed. They are not experiencing the crazy that we're experiencing. Oh, it's oppressive. It certainly is. But their family structure is pretty well intact. Places like Guatemala that have witchcraft, the family structure is still kind of there. Africa, I've been to Africa. Family structure is still kind of there. We're at a place where we are absolutely falling apart. What is happening? We were a place that honored God and we've stepped away. And now what's happening? Severe darkness is moving in. Well, I'm not sharing that to discourage you. Here's why I'm sharing that. You need to know where you find yourself. You find yourself in a place where there is darkness all around, and it's easy to go to work Monday, okay, and just be like, oh, this is Bill over here, this is Sue, and, I know they got their issues, but, they're pretty good people, and we just kind of, try to be nice people and live our life. Well, you can do that, but you need to know that these people, if they haven't made Jesus their Lord, they're bound in darkness. They're bound in darkness. And you know what that darkness is going to do? It's going to pull them into the pit where that was intended for darkness. That's what hell is. God created hell for the demonic spirits that reject Him. It's not for people. But you know what? the demonic spirits want to pull as many people there as they can. And so they're working in the lives of the people that are around you, the people that you love. And I'm not telling you that so that you can, condemn them Monday and tell them how bad they are and whatnot. I'm telling you this so that you can speak hope into them, so that you understand they are bound. They're absolutely bound, and they need more than you just being nice. They need you being nice, but they need more than that. They need truth that will give them hope and set them free. But you know what that takes? That takes boldness. What's gonna have to happen for you to get bold? Part of what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to recognize what's actually happening so that you can decide, you know what? I'm not fighting this person. I'm fighting for this person. I mean, maybe it's a person that's being antagonistic to you. They've heard that maybe you're a Jesus follower. And maybe they're purposely being cruel because of that. And your flesh is like wanting to just jump back and, let them have it. Because, maybe you're quick-witted and maybe you can cut them down pretty quick. But that's not going to set them free. The reality is they're locked up. They need freedom, and you can give it. And when you're able to speak truth, be kind, but speak truth to them, God is able to set them free. I hope this is okay. I think it is. I can remember years ago, I mentioned talking to my father. And I can remember my stepmom being there as well. And my stepmom was a part of the Mormon church as well. And it felt like the things I was saying wasn't getting through. But recently, the Lord has opened her eyes. And she has recently given herself to Jesus. And God has broken those chains. And it didn't have anything to do with me and me being, showing them the best arguments or anything like that. I mean, to be honest, we hadn't talked about any of it in quite a while. But it was God. It was God revealing things and using people. But we've got to be bold. We've got to take time, and we can't just be focused on, getting all we can out of life. We've got to go about our day noticing the people around us and take the opportunities to speak truth, because we have people all around us that are bound up, and they're believing things that are coming from the demonic. But again, it's not a rational issue. It's a demonic issue. It's a spiritual issue. And we have the key. We don't own it. It's Jesus. We have the key to set them free. But the question is, do we love them enough? Are we going to be bold enough? I pray that if you've been distracted, you would get undistracted. And you would begin to focus and look for those opportunities. And if you're thinking, well, I'm not smart enough, that's a great place for you to be. Because if you think you are smart enough, you're going to totally botch it up. Because you're going to rely on your own knowledge, and it's not going to be good. But if you have an understanding that you're not smart enough and you are absolutely dependent on God, and the only way for you to speak anything to this person that's going to be helpful is for God to do it, that is a great place to be. That is a great place to be. But it just takes saying, God, I'm here. You want me to say something? I'll say it. Will you be used? God wants to use you. We have people all around us that are bound up, but God can set them free. Lord, thank you.